Hello, I'm MPX, ToycatA, and welcome back to an episode of the Minecraft Bedrock Update Adventures Let's Play. This is the weekly update as to what's been going on, both in my survival world, as well as life, the universe, and everything in between. And today, we're in the worst weather conditions, just objectively. It's raining and it's dark, so we can see basically nothing, although that which we can see is very well lit, because I have lit up most of my world, but today, we need to go find some of the rare bits of the world that aren't lit up, and the reason as to why this weather condition is good. Again, the absolute rarity of a thing is to do with something that actually is quite rare itself, because I was trying to make some changes to the Let's Play world recently, and I was looking through my music discs, trying to find all 13 of them, and you might notice if you look through right here, one, my music disc collection is a mess, let me sort that out, and two, you might notice that I've only got 11 of the 13 discs right here, and it's actually quite simple as to why. The 12th disc is right here in my jukebox. I mean, Pigstep is the one that should always be in there, ready to play. Isn't it beautiful? You might be wondering, why do you have just 12 of the 13 music discs, ToycatA? Where is the 13th? Or, if you're super astute, where is Melohi? And it's a good question. I don't know the answer to where Melohi even is. I thought it might be across my world, but I went looking, and that's when I realized I didn't have it. And given that I want all 13 music discs because a project in my world requires it, I figured we would work on precisely that. And in case you're curious as to how you get music discs in Minecraft, it's one of my favorite things that I haven't done in years because it is super frustrating, especially if you don't like your things being blown up by creepers. But basically, you need a creeper, like this one right here, to be killed by a skeleton. If you kill a creeper with a bow or anything else, you get gunpowder. If a skeleton kills a creeper, for whatever Minecraft logic reason, you actually end up with a music disc. And yeah, obviously for most of my world, this is a super tricky thing because there aren't many places a creeper can spawn. Honestly, I'm not even sure where that creeper spawned, but there is one place which is perfect for this. Also, how did this happen? I need to work on the lighting levels in my farm, apparently, because how are there so many mobs in there? What happened there? And that one place that isn't perfectly lit is the deliberately flatland. So, yeah, I flattened this entire thing. It was a swamp at one point, then it became a jungle. There's lots of curiosities as to how and why all of that happened, but it's a deliberately flat area that I used to go in to kill mobs. I figured rather than having a skeleton farm and a spider farm and a creeper farm, etc., it'd be easy to just go farm the particular mob when I wanted it. And although that hasn't probably panned out so well because, you know, as it just so happens, okay, so that's 10 damage, 12 damage, I want to say, 14 damage, 16 damage, and then one more unless I hit twice without realizing it. And now we just need to get a skeleton blob. But it's something that's happened very strangely. But I do have this flatland that is incredibly convenient if, say, you've got a creeper and you need it to be killed by another specific mob, and you need both those mobs to spawn, and you need to run those mobs around for a little bit until it does happen. Although, it seems it took me so long to get here that it's now daytime. This is embarrassing, huh? Now it's just daytime and it's raining, and all I can do is kill a single pig that has spawned here. And oh, I'm so treated to... There's actually 2 cows here as well. Wow. Gonna get me some beef. But yeah, we have to wait a full 10 minutes till nighttime. So, through the power of editing magic, also known as skipping 10 minutes in the recording, you'll see me at nighttime. Wow, I sure do love the magic that can happen on YouTube. Anyway, so today we're going to be doing a lot of chance-based events. We're hoping that an arrow just happens to be the thing that kills a creeper, even though we're going to be kind of aiming that a little bit. I know we could probably just trap a skeleton, and that'd be the most easy way to do. Should we actually just do that? But, you know, we could totally do that. You know, I'm going to have one skeleton trapped so I don't get too annoyed on this. Also, we're apparently going to get a pillager raid going as well. This is going to be great fun. Also, you know, I love... Wait, can pillagers attack skeletons? Oh, I guess they can. Look at this fun fight we've got going on right here. There are so many mobs. A lot of things are happening. But, yeah, now we've got a skeleton fighting another skeleton, which is perfect because it allows us to walk up next to this skeleton, place a bunch of blocks all around, including right here. And then, okay, just ignore... No! Oh, damn it. We had a little hole, perfect for the skeleton, and then he had to ruin it. And then we just have to nudge them back into the hole, because they won't move when they're close enough to you as a player. Then what we... No, okay, and then... But they move if they need to hit you. That makes a lot of sense. And then we just have to kind of get the skeleton to walk this way, till he goes into the hole. Boom. Then we nudge him, just the tiniest bit. No, not another skeleton fight. That is the last thing I want right now. Okay, just kill these zombies, that skeleton, and let's get a little just skeleton trap going on. And then we'll just walk creepers into it. I feel like that's the fair balance between doing it my way and doing it a way that is relatively effective. Okay, so now we need to fool the skeleton into walking into this hole. Wow, sure would be convenient if you could reach me by going up a block. Oh, there we go, there we go. And now we walk inwards, give him a little nudge, place a block above his head, please. There we go. Nice. And now, no matter what the skeleton wants to do, he's trapped in there. He's kind of like a turret, which is going to be great because there is a creeper somewhere around here. I guess he's despawned. And we're going to deal with him. So, yeah, we're going to be doing a kind of long chance-based activity on a chance-based activity. But isn't that kind of beautiful when you think about it? So, yeah, we're going to hit a creeper once. The creeper takes 8 damage from the sword. I think an extra damage from my fist. And then maybe like 6 or 8 damage from the burning. It might be more than that, actually. And then we hit the creeper once. Maybe twice, just in case. We'll take him to the skeleton. And we'll see if he's within death range of a skeleton yet. I think he should be. But if he's not, we've got a trapped skeleton. It's easy enough to know for sure. And then we've just got to get the creeper between us and the skeleton. Oh, just like that, except it has to work. Imagine that, but like successful. And then you've got what I dream of. And now, as you can see, it's a super weird mechanic. I don't even know why they added it to Minecraft. Like, oh, damn it, this skeleton has such bad aim. Why is it that whenever you're close to a skeleton trying to kill it, it's got like perfect 100% precision, can do 180 no-scopes? Okay, we got to hit the creeper twice, because he just got hit by a skeleton and he didn't die. So, one more time, I'm guessing. No, one more time. One more time. No. We should have 2 skeletons, so that we can just walk him through the crossfire or something. I think that's what we need to do, honestly. More skeletons, there we go. And what do we get? We get ourselves Chirp, I think that is. Yeah, Chirp the disc. And now we say, okay, Chirp is nice, but you know what's nicer than Chirp? This. So we hit a creeper once, then we whack him back once with our fist, and then a second time with our fist, and then we get him hit by the skeleton this time. Look at all the arrows that are going to be around here. It's going to be a lot of fun, and we do the same stuff. So yeah, while we do a lot of chances on chances on chances today, hopefully not getting creepers to blow up. Actually, yeah, let's have a bunch of creepers at the same time. What's stopping me, right? Literally nothing. I mean, the creepers potentially blowing up is a pretty good, a pretty good thing to stop me. But yeah, we're going to try our very best now. Double our odds. And again, statistically, this could take 3 music discs. One of these creepers could drop Melohi. Or statistically, we could get 1 million of them killed. Damn it, the skeleton despawned after such a tiny distance. Okay, that's why that's a terrible idea. There we go. One dead. Got ourselves, I don't know, the greeny blue one. And then I think actually, wow, is that Melohi? Was it that simple? Wow, there we go. Look at that. That could have been a whole, hour-long stress and kill some skeletons and zombies. But instead, we're done already. Wow, we've got so much time today. How about we use it to do what we all secretly want to do anyway, and that's listen to Cat on the jukebox. Yeah. Look at this. Me and my cat listening to Cat on the IBX ToycatA channel. What more do we need with our life? So, we have to hit 10 minutes or half an hour or whatever arbitrary time limit people think you have to hit on YouTube. So we'll just be doing this for the next 20 minutes or so. Okay, maybe we won't. So anyway, there is a really nice opportunity now for us to use the rest of this time to do other helpful things around the world. So first of all, let's go make sure we do indeed have the full collection. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Then the broken disc, which we're going to have to count for some reason. 12, 13 with Melohi. That is 13 music discs, which we can now take out off their little home right here, and we're going to hide them all around the world. This is a key part of the kind of let's play thing. We want to, if people do want to download the world, I feel like there should be a little bit of a puzzle, a challenge for them, something to kind of reward people for looking around and knowing the weird hidden places that you assume I would hide something. And so yeah, we're taking these 13 discs and hiding them, but we have to do that off camera. So, okay, the 13 music discs are now hidden across the world, and although I can't show you where they are because it's meant to be a fun quest for anyone who decides to download the map when it becomes available to download very shortly in the next month or so. By the way, looking real close. I do feel like we need to make a few other renovations that I just kind of noticed while I was doing it, because I'll just give you a spoiler right now. There is a part of the world I will never show in videos. It's called the Lost Woods. It was a really old Minecraft project. It's not finished in the slightest. Don't expect it to be if you ever check out this world. But there are just a few holes in how this interacts with the rest of the things. I feel like, let's go ahead. Let's take some wood. Let's patch this up so you can't see into it or see out of it from the inside. Basically, there's just a few things we have to patch up today, and so I'm going to be doing precisely that. There's some exposed, wood over here, for instance. If you look over here, there's a little hole where you can see into the world. Maybe that's cool. Maybe it's a fun Easter egg. But at the very least, let's put that a block further back so you can barely see out of it. The light is mostly going to be constricted. Cover up most of this, wood that is exposed, etc., just to make the rest of the world pretty. Because it's not really meant to be anything. It's just an old project that I refuse to destroy and pretend doesn't exist. So instead, I keep it there as a sign to how bad small things can be. And who knows? Maybe I work on it again at some point. It's an interesting example of a bizarre, I guess, not even passion project that I don't even want to keep too close of an eye on. But yeah, it's like a passion project minus the passion, right? And speaking of taking things away from something, because there's a lot of these weird holes in the world we have to kind of fix. I've tried fixing a few of them in live streams and videos before, but let's take one big last crack at fixing things like, hey, this stone here that I covered up pretty good, but we could make some more work in fixing it better. Right over here, there's clearly been one too many creeper explosions. How about we just fix that right now? How about we make that just a little bit more pleasant? Why is there exposed sand right here? That doesn't need to be. Let's fix that, and let's make the world a slightly better place, or at least my world a slightly better place. Because isn't that what Minecraft's all about? But yeah, something I have been I guess in a lot of thought about this past week, because every now and then there's someone who says something to me like, hey, by not doing something, you are actively as bad as people who do a bad thing. One of the I've had some very I guess one of the things about having any number of large number of people find you is it's like, oh yeah, a large number of those people are going to have some thoughts, and some of those people are going to be super negative and hate you for everything you do or whatever. Maybe that's just to be expected or whatever, and I'm the weird one for not having noticed this. See, this is really square. I feel like we can make this better by just removing these blocks here, and then maybe this sand on the corner there, and then maybe getting rid of the drowns of tridents that are trapped in minecarts under my ocean for whatever reason. Yeah, there's quite a few of them too, isn't there? It's very, very, very strange when we say it like that. But yeah, so see, I made the world a better place right now. Are you happy with me? But interestingly enough, one of the things I've been trying to... I always try to do this, and I sometimes get caught up because the world is always telling you a list of things that you need to do. They're super important. But honestly, your list of personal most important things to do is never going to be a perfect match with that of the world, in my opinion. So an example is I've been overwhelmed with emails recently. For some reason, every online person, you have to keep an email, and you have to respond to it all the time, and etc. But the answer is really, why is that? So outside of responding to a few super important things that I knew I was expecting, taking the emails I knew that I wanted to see and looking specifically for them, I otherwise just decided, I've been overwhelmed with emails that they're making me feel worse about everything. People who there's just a lot of random stuff in there. Most of it's spam, but then the stuff that isn't spam, it's a lot of people who want some things from you. And I realized wouldn't I just be happier if I didn't? And so for the last 2 weeks, I've just not been email. I've just been again, outside of what I exclusively need to be on there, and it saved me hours of work. It saved me a lot of stress, honestly, which is a pretty important thing, I think. But even more importantly than that, it made me realize that oh yeah, literally, it seems so important. Everyone will tell you oh, the most important thing you got to do online, you gotta have an email and be responded to it. And it's oh yeah, that's what people want you to do, because those people want to be able to reach you whenever they want. It's how I don't know, I've always heard of people who work at jobs where oh yeah, even when you're not working, we expect you to be readily and reachable so you can work at a moment's notice. And it's no, that's that is terrible for your work-life balance or stress, or again, even if you want to be the most effective worker, if you're someone who likes that, that's fine. But for most people, that will make you a less effective human being, worker, etc. It's a worse round job for everyone. And basically I realized that oh yeah, just I didn't respond to emails. My life became a slightly better place. It became less hassled by strangers. And even I saved some number of hours. and nothing went wrong. I didn't, lose any earnings, anything that I've noticed that has come wrong for that. But to put that another way, on Saturday, I was gonna do a store Saturday, and I was like, oh yeah, I kind of wanted to do a Q&A, but I wasn't really feeling it. And then I was like, actually, let's just put some extra time in here. Let's pick some questions I actually want to answer. Let's do a thing. And the result is the Q&A Saturday, I guess, because it's cave update season. Hundreds of thousands of people saw it in the first 24 hours, which is always a good thing. And it caused hundreds of new subscriptions. Plus it was actually therefore better for the channel as a whole. I did a thing that no one would have asked me for. No one asked for Q&A Saturday after last week. I think someone questioned last week, well, you meant to be doing Q&A Saturday this week. But it's something that, people only ask for, when it's not there, I guess you can say. But, despite the fact that no one has said anything about it, no one was pressuring me into making it, it was the better decision than reading through some emails and, having someone be like, hey, ToycatA, I want your help building, an automatic skeleton farm. And I'm like, oh, I have no idea. That's not my that's not my wheelhouse. If you want to see my skeleton farm, you should want to see my skeleton farm. It's beautiful. It's how I get all my bows. And by all my bows, I mean far too many bows for any sane person to want to use. Also, yeah, I like this. This is kind of like a little secret entrance into an underground cave. Ooh, yeah, look at this. I like this a lot. We have to light it up, though, because apparently it just goes into pure nothingness here. Or maybe it doesn't, question mark. But yeah, we got a lot of things to light up for the very reasons of having creepers and whatnot not spawn. And also, for shipping the map and whatever. So I'm going to go around and fix these minor things as well, I guess. But yeah, so I think the value of, working at, so what goes wrong if you don't do something? It's a weird way to look at things, but I think sometimes it's extra important. I always used to be frustrated by the idea that, when I was in school, teachers would just be like, oh yeah, you really need to succeed. And they never really explain why. Every now and then someone would be like, oh yeah, you'll just, you'll be considered as a failure in life if you don't have at least this. It'll be so much harder to get a job. And it's what if I don't want a job right now? But they're like, oh, but you totally will. And it's that's not how you motivate someone, right? Motivation needs to come from, maybe not from within, but it needs to come from something that you trust, someone that you trust. And, it needs to come from you getting towards something that you probably want, even if that's just the world being a better place, right? And as a result of that, one of the things, I think this links into the ravine, which links into my giant cave house area, by the way. Could be wrong on that, but I'm pretty sure it does. But yeah, it made me realize that oh yeah, there are some tasks that you don't need to do so much. We like to think about things as being all about oh yeah, every decision is perfect and you're doing all the things perfectly all the time. But then you look at some people let's say there's a famous rapper out there somewhere, hypothetically, who's also a famous, I think he makes shoes maybe, but also he was running for president for some reason. Yeah, I could be talking about anyone right now. And it's you can either argue oh, they're not really doing work and therefore it's all a thing, or you can argue they know the most important bits of what they're doing. You can turn any task in the world into the most complex task if you want to, if you're trying to, at the very least. Because, there's a lot of complexity you can add to something, but making things uncomplex, that's what the real challenge is. It's some people say that I'm a teacher or whatever on YouTube, and the ultimate thing about teaching is you might think that the ultimate goal in life is to seem like you are, you know everything, you are Mr. Smug, Mr. I know how the universe works, and therefore I'm going to teach people. But really it's understanding a topic well enough to be able to simplify it, to make it not seem complex. That's what good teaching is, rather than just saying oh yeah, there's this really big complex web. When you grow up, that means you totally need these qualifications, so go get them or whatever. Instead, be oh yeah, so look, here's how it's gonna be. You're gonna want to get a job, and then they're gonna look at this, lack of, I don't know, English A level, C level, GCSE thing, and they're gonna be hey, what's the deal with that? You clearly. They're not going to assume you don't know English, because of course you know English, you can speak to them, but instead they're going to look at that and be oh, you weren't motivated enough to do something that everyone in your life was telling you was important. Why is that? And it's going to just cause a tiny roadblock for you, because that's what exams ultimately are, to most informed employers. I mean, to some people, the people who think they are super important, it's yes, this is everything. But to most people, it's just this is your way of showing you care about something when you're told you need to care about something. Like your ability to follow orders. That's why exams, when you think about it, they're not really about testing your knowledge. They tell you all the things. Like if it was testing knowledge, they'd be like, hey, go learn English for a year. In a year, we'll test you. And, whoever does the best, they're clearly the best at, the most knowledgeable or whatever. But no, they don't do it that way, do they? What they instead do is they're like, oh, here is everything we're going to be teaching you. Here's the exams we did last year and what we graded based on. How well can you do that given a year and given, the time of your performance? And I think that's like the ultimate how you teach someone about something. And so something that comes up is like some people will say like, hey, ToycatA, why is it that you are an influencer? I hate the term influencer. It's like, I hate it so much. But like, I am an influencer. I influence people's opinions, right? That is what I do because I am an influencer. I don't know why I keep saying it that way, but it's super. Again, I find people... I get why we need the term to like have like a collective across like YouTubers and Instagrammers, whatever. But like, ideally we can avoid it. Maybe we should. Okay, that's just me that thinks that. Sure, that's fine. But basically, there's this term of like, oh yeah, why aren't you telling people like, they've got to stay inside? Why aren't you telling people, why aren't you doing that thing where you're constantly telling people to wear masks? Or nowadays it's like, why aren't you constantly telling people that, they should be registering to vote? Like, do you not want people to vote? And it's like, just because you don't do something, it doesn't mean you explicitly want the opposite outcome, right? Like, there's this fun balance you have to strike. So like, on the pandemic thing, it's like as a YouTuber, as an entertainer, people come here every Monday, for this particular series, or every what day of the week would it be for Seed Sunday? You tell me. I don't know what day Seed Sunday is on. Someone's gonna have to explain that. Q&A Saturday or Store Saturday. I just don't know what day I upload these videos. That's an old joke. I'm sorry for referencing that. I remember the number of people who used to ask, like, when is Q&A Saturday, ToycatA? It was like the most frustrating thing in the world. And it's like, how do I explain this any clearer? But okay, so ignoring those old references, it's like if you come to somewhere for entertainment, I know the whole like, oh yeah, it's an escapism thing is overplayed, but it's totally true, right? Like you can do one of there's a lot of tasks that people can have to make the world better during a time where everyone has to be inside. Either you can be the person who tells everyone what to do, and like, is that really necessary? Do you need that more than once in your life? Or you can be the thing who makes it a better place for those sorts of people. Again, it's kind of like thinking about what would the world be like without it. Like, admittedly, maybe there is one person out there who has heard from no one about the current situation, and they're going about their life normally, and maybe they'd be reached by a tweet by ToycatA being like, oh yeah, did you know there's this thing, and as a result you shouldn't do XYZ. But it's like, no, actually, all the differences, all the regulations about what you should do are based on your local area. On the internet, I'm blessed that people watch my videos from all different places around the world. I don't, if you live in New Zealand, your guidelines are different to if you live in Victoria, Australia, which are different to if you live in Korea, where they, by the way, I learned this because I was looking into like living in Korea next year for a few months. Don't ask me why, but anyway, I was looking into it, and it's like, oh yeah, they just eased their restrictions there. They never had to do the whole like 2 meters apart thing because of different things that went down. And it's like, oh yeah, so if you were Korean, hearing that would be just confusing, and you'd get all the distress of that, all the distress of like, oh god, things are going bad in the world, without any of the actual benefit of new knowledge, right? Like, basically what I'm trying to say, you see this now, like, because it's election season in America, even like this again, I shouldn't say the word cringe, but it makes me like, I feel very confused things when I see non-Americans being like, hey everyone, go out and vote, make sure you're registered to vote. And it's like, what? Technically speaking, you could make an argument that if I tell you who to vote for, I tell you to register to vote, whatever, you could argue that is foreign election interference. On a technical level, it is, right? I am foreign and I am interfering. And like, obviously it's the type no one cares about, but it's like, okay, interesting by itself. But also it's like, man, you have to make this like weigh up decision in your head. You have to weigh up, the pros and cons of like everyone who is already on board with, say registering to vote, or everyone who already knows, like about wearing a mask or whatever other things are applicable to your local area. They're going to see it and be like, oh yeah, this wasn't interesting. This wasn't new to me. I don't know why I follow someone who just tells me things I am already very aware of, and I don't know how I wouldn't be aware of. Like, even social media itself tells you to register to vote. Why would any individual, like, if that's the case, which I don't think it should be, like, I think it's weird when, like, you're on Discord and Discord's like, hey, I know you're here to message your friends, but how about you register to vote instead? That's pretty important, huh? Whatever. I'm just ranting at this point. But basically, it's all about like weighing up the impact of doing something versus not. And I don't know how we all come to our own conclusions about what is the best thing to do on those levels, but it's very weird and very confusing. So yeah, we made this place slightly more lit up. Maybe there's something on the inside that you could find if you ever see the finished version. It'll probably be finished by the time this is done. But yeah, let's leave here now and move on to the next thing. But yeah, oh, so often it can seem like, oh, you just have to do something. And sometimes the explanation is never given as to why. It's just like, well, you have to, that's just the thing that happens. And it's funny because, the stereotype on, what is always said as a kid is like, oh yeah, just because someone else is doing something doesn't mean you should too. If your friend said they jump off the Brooklyn Bridge, doesn't mean that you should. And it's like, well, first of all, jumping off a bridge is a very cool thing that I think you can actually do as a tourist attraction in certain places. So if my friend said he was going to jump off a bridge, I would ask, where are we doing it, when, how, why, etc. And I'd be super excited to be on board. But, ignoring that that's the thing, it's like, yeah, actually, if that's meant to be the valuable lesson, shouldn't we be working out, how to learn things ourselves rather than having to think that, oh, yeah, I am, I'm the savior of the world and I can change things. And that's, I think, ultimately what it comes down to on some people. The only impact that if you feel like you want to make an impact somewhere and you're not sure how, you can feel like, oh yeah, social media is the way that you can share your message with everyone. But the truth is, something I think is interesting, around this season, every single part of, Twitter, every single part of, all the other social medias, even an Instagram, it's pictures only, but people use the captions as a way to be like, oh yeah, during this season, let's talk about my political goals and aims. Here, in other words, there is one of the interests people can follow all year round, there is political news, right? There is all different sorts of it that you can choose to follow or you can choose not to follow. I'm trying to find dark spots to light up, by the way, because I noticed in the intro of this video, there was a spider up here. So that's a clever thing I guess we should be fixing. But it's an interesting thing because, politics is something anyone can choose to follow on any social media. But most people choose not to follow it. So it's like, oh yeah, what does that tell you? Does that tell people that it doesn't add to your life? But then we also know that, oh yeah, young people have a overwhelming tendency not to care or not to vote or whatever. All I'm trying to say is there's a lot of, different moving bits all moving around here. And I think on any issue, the reason people love... what people love is not, learning new things, not, becoming a more learned person, which I wish was more common. I wish people aspired to be smarter people than they were yesterday. I wish people aspired to be better people than they were, yesterday or whatever. But instead what I see is, all too common of a thing is instead of, oh, yeah, I want to be smarter, or I want to be, more... I've got the whole educate yourself thing, oh yeah, I want to be able to snap back at people and be like, oh yeah, the thing that I already believed, it turns out I'm even smarter for believing it because here's a person who tells me, look how correct I am, and it's but, and it's nah, look, I have justified myself and proven my correctness now, huh? And it's sure, I guess. That's why people even though you might wonder oh yeah, why does everyone not care about the ultimate things? Why does everyone not care about the most important of issues? I know what it is to you, because to everyone it's slightly different. And the ultimate answer is oh yeah, because there are a lot of things to care about, and everyone needs to take their own little segment of life to act like everyone. The thing we do as humans is we specialize. Even in our information, we are very specialized about what we learn and what we don't learn. And it's oh yeah, the most important things that we learn are going to be different from person to person. And I think accepting that people are different is super important. And it's something we we have a bad time at doing sometimes, it seems. Because, where's the fun in doing it? Where's the fun in admitting that someone's just had a different upbringing, and therefore maybe they have different values and beliefs? Now, where's the fun in that when you can just claim that they're the worst person alive? Let's call it a bigot. Let's come with the worst terms possible. And then ultimately we devalue language, and that's a whole other thing for another day. But I think about the idea of what if you just don't do something? People are criticizing leaders all over Europe, but if you follow English speaking news, you're probably going to see the UK, you're going to see the UK, you're going to see, America above all else. You might see Ireland occasionally because they primarily use English as their language, although that's a touchy subject we should maybe save for another day. But you might have heard about like, oh yeah, did you hear Subway bread is actually it's not classified as bread by the Irish government. Wow, so wacky. Except actually it's legally classified as bread. It's just not classified as bread for tax reasons because there are, in European countries we have tax that is mandatorily added on everything. It's included in the price, so some people don't even know about it. But basically, we have to have there are some things that are tax free. You don't pay any VAT on, but it's very, very specific things like things that are considered absolute essentials. And although there are some things that should be considered absolute essentials that aren't, don't get me wrong, it's interesting to look at that and be like, oh yeah, as a result, Subway bread isn't really bread, and it's like actually it's not essential, Because one of the things I find cool but also terrifying at the same time, like I guess I'm torn about what I feel about it because is the fact that food is like one of the biggest commodities. Maybe this is something I can particularly relate to because the moment I remember when I started earning money to like buy food and like be pretty indiscriminate about it, it was such a cool moment of like, oh wow, I can choose to have pizza. Like the very first time I made YouTube money was like I never really had my own source money. Like I had pocket money when I was a very young child, but when my parents split up, obviously it's not a thing that got to happen. And so like having money was like this rare, super, super rare thing. Like it caused a lot of issues about like, how do you even hang out if you don't have money as a child? Sometimes, that's a thing. But so like when like money first came about and you're like, oh yeah, I can buy my own stuff. I was like, yeah, I want to get myself some, I'm gonna be able to get myself some pizza. That was literally what I intended to do with my first YouTube money payout, or my first actually like infinite money payout. I think it might have been from writing articles or whatever. There's a whole story about what happened to that, like theft and betrayal by a family member I could perhaps talk about another day. But the base idea of like wanting to being able to like the fact that pizza is a food, it is a essential in the sense that it's a food, but it's also not an essential, right? Like you don't need pizza to live. It is an extreme not an extreme luxury, but it's definitely a luxury. When you have it, it's better than not having it. Like you can live off bread. It's wild cheap, but it's not fun. And I think this idea of like bread, certain foods being just for luxury things. I guess the idea of food being a luxury is a weird one that we've kind of implanted on ourselves because a lot of the times the categories are pretty arbitrary. Like everyone knows about lobster and how lobster, I think caviar too, but like they both were considered garbage. Like think about it. Like you have to go through so much work to get a lobster out, but with a branding effort, it becomes this incredibly expensive meat. But like, crab is really cheap and lobster's very expensive, despite the fact that they're super, super similar in the end sense of the word. Because like it's the things that go with it usually that make like lobster kind of fancy. It's the setting, it's everything else that kind of makes you feel like it's fancy when you get it. Same with like, I don't know, there's only so good like beef can get before you're like, oh yeah, you're paying for the experience of going to an expensive place and feeling like you're treating yourself to this luxury that is also consumable. But anyway, the thing I was trying to say there is like you follow a lot of things and it's like, oh yeah, we see, it seems ridiculous to count bread just because it has 10% sugar is not a luxury. It seems ridiculous that like Subway bread isn't really bread. But it's like, what is the alternative? Being like, oh yeah, as long as you can vaguely make a class, as long as you call something bread, you have to have a standard there somewhere. Maybe that standard should be more lenient to include what people nowadays like as bread. Or maybe, like if something's going to be a staple, it should suck because maybe bread with less than 10% sugar isn't great. I mean, Subway bread does objectively taste better than most other breads I've had in the UK. Maybe other breads just suck though. I've heard in America sugar bread is really, really common though. I could be wrong. That's one of those like stereotypes we have in the UK. We have so many bizarre stereotypes now that I think about it from America. And one of them is like, oh yeah, you guys, your chocolate tastes like puke because it has butane or something in there. I forget what it's called, but you have the puke chemical inside your chocolate. But for reasons I would love to know, like it must be one of those dumb stereotypes, but I've looked into it and the chemical is there. Maybe it's a preservative or something. And in America, the bread tastes like sugar. Although I've been here and I can't taste it myself. So I think it just has sugar in there and then people get mad about it. Because, we love to complain about foods. Again, we like to see the opposite. Like it's like an interesting thing is people love complaining about preservatives, right? It's like, oh, preservatives are the worst. Companies are basically trying to poison you. And it's a pretty compelling case until you think about like, oh yeah, what about if they didn't do that? What if they didn't include preservatives? And you'd be like, oh yeah, you would hate that your food expired so soon. You'd hate that it goes bad. The number of people that would die, in fact, actually, not even just like would dislike it. People who would die because their food went bad and they didn't know, or they didn't want to throw it away because, you know, food is like a luxury in some ways. You don't want to get rid of it. You know, I've eaten bad food before because like, oh, this was expensive. I don't want to get rid of it now. Maybe I'm not meant to admit that. Maybe as a YouTuber, an influencer, I should be influencing my audience to only ever eat food that they're sure hasn't expired. But I'm sure you get the point by now about what I was trying to say with that. Like the truth is you can learn without being told. Not everything has to be directly said to you. Sometimes that might be the best way to reach people, but I don't think every time for everyone ever. Maybe, or maybe I'm wrong. Maybe all of you are like, you know, I guess if ToycatA doesn't want me to vote, I guess I'm not going to. I'd done a lot of research about the candidates and the things in my local area, and then ToycatA said that ToycatA didn't explicitly say to vote. He didn't say not to vote. He just didn't say anything about the issue, and therefore I realized that I guess I just shouldn't do it, huh? Maybe that's really how that one's going. But yeah, thinking about like how something would be without something, like because something I found is I bought a gallon of diet lemonade. Let's just call it lemonade. Keep things simple. But I bought a gallon of lemonade, and it was so tasty. It tastes like full-on lemonade, which is weird to say because it's just lemonade is what we're calling it. But I bought this huge container, and it says something on there like use within 48 hours. And I googled it, and most people say yeah, it gets pretty bad after 24 hours. And it's like, wait, how does lemonade get bad after 24 hours? And it's like, oh, they just use free ingredients. One of the reasons it tastes so good is because there's just, you know, water, stevia maybe, and then lemon juice. That's how you make lemonade, which is not how lemonade is in the UK. There's a whole like side tangent about how our lemonade's different, by the way. But it's interesting because you know, this very different. Oh, this is I made a mistake here. How embarrassing! But you know, like a whole side tangent about lemonade being different. But like, there was a lot of complaints, like, oh, they don't put any preservatives in, so it goes bad fast. It's a ploy to get you to buy more. And it's like, man, yeah, you can't win. Like, if you include preservatives, people are like, oh, nasty preservatives that are bad. And yeah, like, preservatives aren't there for the primary purpose of eating. So if you do eat something faster, you're probably eating worse food than you could if you just didn't eat preservatives. Like, is this ice or is this packed ice? I hope this is packed ice, or it's gonna probably melt, huh? Only one way to find out, and that's to let it melt. Or we could just put this on the wall up there or something. But yeah, it's like it's one of those like damned if you do, damned if you don't moments. Like I like to think a lot of you know, because it's really easy to paint something as evil if you use facts selectively, right? And that's why I think it's important to like both look at a full picture of something, try to get a real feel for it, but also I think another important kind of understated thing is think about what would happen if someone didn't do something. It's like I don't know. People like to complain about, you know, the West. You might see UK, US leaders or whatever, which, you know, right now, whatever, very wacky guys in charge. But it's like, oh yeah, 200,000 people are dead, or 50,000 people are dead, or whatever number they're going to say, because they didn't do X. And it's like, well, I mean, you know, the situation, if you have someone in charge who does literally nothing, right? It's like, well, you know, this is still going to exist in the world anyway. This was a result of like some animal human disease spread. This isn't a widespread situation involving you know, like active people doing evil things, unless you believe some fun conspiracies, I guess. But you know, this is just a case of like, oh yeah, this thing came into the world, and now what do you do once it's here? Assuming, because, you know, like if you look at a lot of people say like, oh yeah, you could shut the borders down nice and early. It's like, oh yeah, if you shut the border down for every potential you know, pandemic in the world, the amount of like the world suffers, and the amount, like, if you look at the alternative case scenario where it's like, imagine a world where COVID didn't turn out to be big. It did end up being, you know, confined to China. It got like dealt with really fast, but you shut down your borders to China and to Iran and to Italy for, you know, months anyway, just in case. The amount of economic damage that does, the amount of real people who can't eat and feed for themselves, etc., 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 the amount of hardship the world goes under is measurable whereas the impact from the other thing, theoretical. And in this particular case, it's the reverse of that. But there's this really interesting. This is one block off, I guess. So it should be there, and then this should be there, nice and easy. But it's super bizarre to look back and be like, oh yeah, if you, right now that it's out there, it's like you are effectively saying someone needs to tell people what to do, or those people, will just do bad things. It's like it's the most depressing attitude that a lot of people are genuinely having very publicly. Because it's like, oh man, your genuine belief is that people are terrible unless they're directed not to be. No one can make an informed decision on their own. People are just sheep that you have to move in the correct direction, because if you don't tell them exactly what to do, they're going to do absolutely terrible things. That's why, the example is like, oh yeah, we should, tell people not to do X thing, in schools rather than teaching people protection. We should teach people not to attack. And it's like, well, there are bad people out there, it sucks and we can minimize that, but there's always going to be some. It's like, how do you work the best through when it does happen? The whole idea of security, like if you just had, rather than us all buying home security systems, what if we just had a lesson in school where someone says, do not steal? Someone just goes into the classroom and says, stealing's bad, don't do it. We'll make people upset. Here's the victim of theft. And it's like, well, some people are still going to do it because, something being bad or good isn't the only thing holding people back from doing. There are very specific circumstances that cause good people, or even just okay people, to do bad things. But probably more particularly okay people. Okay people sounds a lot like the phrase that you would say to a phone to get it to do a Google search, huh? But it's a whole. I think here's another cave I haven't explored. That's nice. It's fun to find these after all these years. Oh, look at all the iron we've got here. 3 veins. What a treat. All the iron ore for me. But I think it's a really interesting thing to think about, that we should wonder what happens if you don't do something. Like the whole oh yeah, what if Amazon's this super evil company, like they're buying up when retail stores are closing because of the current situation, like permanently. Amazon's going in and using the space to buy warehouses, and you're like, oh, evil big business doing this big evil thing. And it's like, imagine a world where they don't do that. It doesn't magically bring all these businesses back to life. It just means that now there is the tragedy of them closing, and also, whoever the landlord is or the bank that's on the hook or whatever else it is also having their own set of financial difficulties. Just wishing more pain instead of a perfect solution is like an all too common thing of like, oh, if you don't do something perfect, you might as well have just done something bad. And it's like, no, we really, really, really need to not encourage people to think that. Because if people think that, it's like, oh yeah, why not just do something bad? And then the world's a much worse place than if we just say, oh yeah, sometimes you got to make the best decision in a bad place. Sometimes you're squeezed by various decisions, governmental or otherwise. And that's why my always philosophy is like, I very rarely tell people what you need to do on this channel. Besides hit the like button, am I right? Actually, no, even then, even when I'm jokingly even when I'm doing my promo YouTuber stuff to encourage you to see more, to like the video so that hopefully by the grace of the algorithm I continue to exist. Even when I'm saying stuff like that, it's still followed of oh yeah, if you want to. Even when I'm promoting my own map, oh yeah, if you choose to download and support the channel by purchasing this map, sure, there'll be a puzzle for you. If not, that's okay too. You don't need to do anything. You're the ultimate arbiter of what you do and don't have to do. Yeah, this needs some dirt too. This pathway here is one of the ugliest things in the world. Look at all the stone, look at the weird holes in it. And the worst one, I patched it up mostly, but over here there's just a hole in the mountain. I have so many questions as to how I let all of this happen. But let's just fix it. Let's do one nice thing in the world. Rather than saying, oh, ToycatA, you're not a master builder. You didn't make the mountain again from scratch prettier. No, I like how the mountain was previously. I'm just going to make it slightly better than it was before. Rather than leaving giant creeper blasts that probably should have been fixed, let's fix one of those. Because I think this is maybe just my life philosophy. I think you can struggle all day. I've spent so many hours trying to... last time when I was trying to stream on Thursday, I spent hours and hours and hours and hours trying to work out what it is I should do. I just didn't have a great idea in mind. I don't know why. I had like, I call it like a mental block, an artist block, or whatever else you want to call it. But like I had this. Why can't I pick up that torch? I had this big like lack of direction, lack of anything what to do. So I spent hours doing nothing because I was trying to work out what would be the perfect thing to do. When instead I could have just like, the people who missed the live stream as a result aren't thinking like, oh, well, at least it was a slightly better idea. And I don't even think it was a better idea. It was just like better than not doing anything. But like, when you spend hours on something trying to make it great, sometimes the real answer is like, try to make something, good. maybe good, something good that exists is much better than something great that doesn't. People talk all the time about their like theoretical ideas and systems and imaginations and how they can be, and ultimately, like when you're making up all the variables, like sure, yeah, you like if you're trying to imagine like how well you could handle insert thing here, it's like, oh yeah, if you have all the levers at your disposal, that's how it is. But like ultimately, like in these debates, you are not you never get to be a king, a dictator. Even if someone put you in the top spot of power, and you have a lot of people around you who want to do it, it's like, oh yeah, you're still limited by how the very system itself works. The thing I'm trying to say here is that understanding about how and why, understanding why imperfect things exist is important to trying to work out how to make them better. And I think, honestly, just trying to, my ultimate like philosophy in life, like the thing that makes me want to keep going is that I would like to leave a best impact on as many people as I can. Like better than if I didn't exist. I would like as many people to be like, you know what, that guy, I'm slightly glad he exists. Not a lot glad. I'm gonna be, because if you make too big of an impact on people's life, maybe they'll be sad when you're gone, and that's sad. But so not too big of an impact. But like people be like, that ToycatA guy, he was all right, and maybe we have some people thinking that by the time we're gone, we've achieved a good life. But speaking of good life, this has been a good episode of the Updated Adventures Let's Play. I think there's only one suitable way to end it, and I hope that you all enjoyed this. As always, it's a Let's Play, so liking it's appreciated, although this is never going to do well under algorithm or anything else like that. It's mostly me talking some stuff that we want to share, because this is your weekly survival update as to what's been going on in this world, as well as life, the universe, and everything in between. I'm expecting this map to release in December. There's now a music discount because of reasons that we had to go through, as well as a few signs like this one right here, just to kind of guide people around the world and like give some, I guess, commentary as you explore it. And I feel like that's a fun way to reward people. Just a reminder, this will be a real live copy of the map. You're going to be having the exact map that I play. There's no craziness going on there, which I think is great. It's going to be fun. Anyway, thank you for watching this video, and I'll see you all in the next one. Goodbye.